I'm going to ask you a question. I know these novels can be a little niche, but I'd like you to see if you can recognize them. Ready? Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. How about Mark Twain's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn? Do any of them ring a bell? The answer I'm looking for is yes. Considering you just listed some of the most well-known literary pieces of all time. Needless to say, these classics are familiar to us all and hold a dear place in our collective memory. Whether we encountered them in English class or discovered them on our own meandering through the stacks of a local library, these books have taught us all valuable life lessons. And yet, these are among some of the most challenged and banned books of the last decade. Hello, I'm Hannah Boron, and this is my piece, The Right to Know and the Right to Read. You heard me right. Many such pieces of literature sit sandwiched on the shelf of shame amongst books like Captain Underpants and 50 Shades of Grey, off the shelves and out of the hands of readers. Understandably, you probably don't want 50 Shades of Grey in your school's public selection, but why did the classics of Twain and Steinbeck also get the boot? Why did the staple English class books like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Lord of the Flies, and 1984 still get so much criticism? Well, the reason is simple. Controversy. Whether it be a criticism of government, a commentary of racism, or a spotlight on the struggles of sexuality, the conflicts within popular banned novels serve as direct portals to heavy subject matter. They cause us to question everything we know, our beliefs, ourselves, our perspectives, and can flip someone's entire world on its head. Thus, it seems natural to want to withhold these books from young adults. Teenage minds are tumultuous, impressionable, and prone to emotional extremes. To expose young minds to such heavy subject matter would be a recipe for disaster. At least, that's what some people think. I, however, challenge that notion. In fact, I believe the heavy nature of these books is the exact reason why they should be in young hands. They encourage young minds to challenge their own thinking, to confront difficult realities, and to progress as civic-minded young adults. And the classroom provides an optimal environment to do that. We've learned the value of controversial literature from the past. Literary censorship extends far, far back in our history. Unlike today, where book banning is done in a somewhat civil fashion, people in the 1600s decided to skip past the dialogue and go straight to burning everything. Well, not everything, but definitely the books they deemed most foul. In 1650, William Pinkin, one of the most rich and important men in Massachusetts, published The Meritorious Price of a Redemption, a criticism of Puritan theology. The people of Boston found his critique so controversial that it's believed that the general court didn't even read it all before telling the town executioner to burn all of the copies. Only 4 copies survived the destruction that day, and the New World's first book ban was born. 2 centuries later, the censorship of literature became exponentially more popular as time progressed. Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass, banned in 1881 for explicit language. Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species, banned in 1859 for introducing the theory of evolution. Margaret Sanger's The Women Rebel, banned in 1915 for educating on sex and women's rights. A Farewell to Arms, Brave New World, Animal Farm, The Jungle, Invisible Man, the list goes on and on. But where do we see these books now? Where do we see these works, once ridiculed for their radical and skeptical nature, today? I'll tell you. We see them in our history textbooks. We see them in our science textbooks. We see them in English class, universally praised by generations for their progressive impact on the world. The pattern is undeniable. Though deemed inappropriate in their own time, modern hindsight serves as a lens for us to see these books for what they truly are, champions of enlightenment. Laurie Halls Anderson wrote, "Censorship is the child of fear and the father of ignorance." If these authors hadn't questioned the world around them or shone a light on societal problems, many issues would have remained unnoticed, unrepresented, and unacknowledged. Instead, people who read them were given the opportunity to examine their own lives and say, what should be done to change the world for the better? An opportunity stolen from those who can no longer find them in their libraries. In April of 2020, the Matsu School Board was presented with a motion to remove several books from their high school English curriculum. One of these was Catch-22 by veteran Joseph Heller. It was challenged for its military language, misogyny, racism, and violence. Another book was I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, an autobiography that goes through the life of its author, Maya Angelou. Those who wanted it banned argued it had an anti-white message and that it was too sexually explicit. With these factors, it seems like the logical choice would be to remove these books from the list of approved curriculum. However, judging these books by those labels undermines the purpose of their existence. Catch-22 details the brutality of war from the perspectives of multiple airmen and challenges the notion of war as heroic. Their experiences highlight many evils, but for the opposite purpose of condoning them. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings shines a light on the racism Angelou suffered growing up as a black woman and the hardships she endured after being raped. These novels address bitter realities that are still prevalent today. You may be thinking such books are still too intense for classroom use. Understandably, parents may also share this concern and be uncomfortable with their children being exposed to such topics. But in the real world, life isn't pretty. According to a study published by the Department of Health and Social Services in 2017, 24% of Alaskans have had 2 to 3 adverse childhood experiences. 20% have had 4 or more. Sexual abuse, racism, violence are problems students do, unfortunately, face in their lives. These books provide the means to teach young people how to process these difficult realities and learn from the mistakes and experiences of others. Also, the classroom offers a safe and academic space for young readers to explore these controversial themes of literature. In a classroom, you don't have the constant negative barrage of information you receive from the media or outside of school. Instead, you have a controlled environment in which you can have the hard conversations that lead to understanding, growth, and change. Gaining awareness and building understanding through critical thinking will help foster a generation of compassionate human beings who seek to learn before they seek to fight. Keith Oatley, a cognitive psychologist at the University of Toronto, found those who read more literary fiction score much higher on empathy tests than those who don't read as much. They're more willing to consider others' backgrounds, problems, and perspectives, a practice that has become increasingly endangered. According to studies conducted by the Pew Research Facility, modern-day Americans have become radically polarized, especially under the influence of the relatively new phenomenon, social media. The vast network of partisan social media has manipulated people to believe that their ideological, racial, and religious identities are synonymous with their partisan beliefs. This prevailing attitude confines our nation to a fixed mindset, one that must be red or blue, but never both. With the once unshakable definition of we the people being challenged by the towering threat of we the parties, our nation's future looks bleak. However, with the salvation of literature, it is not. While social media presents what it wants its users to see in a never-ending onslaught of misinformation, books do not. The nature of literature, unlike social media, invites contemplation, reflection, and deeper understanding. As author Judy Blume once said, "It's not just the books under fire now that worry me. It's the books that'll never be written, the books that'll never be read, and all due to the fear of censorship. As always, it will be young readers who are the real losers." We cannot afford to silence the voice of literature. These books contain not only the wisdom of the past, but the means to foster a hunger for new knowledge. In a world of chaos and division, students deserve the gift to learn from these books so they can navigate life and strive for a better future. Next time the conversation of banned books comes up at your community school, will you protect this gift? We deserve the right to know, and the right to read. Thank you! Yay!